Welcome. I'm Brianna Wright, Executive Director of the American Subcontractors Association Houston chapter. With me today are members Patrick Hayes, co-managing shareholder, and Mahek Bhojani, attorney at Andrews Myers PC, for today's hot topic discussion about PPP good faith certification. The Paycheck Protection Program is part of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act. It was rolled out in early April with an initial infusion of nearly $350 billion intended to provide American small businesses with 8 weeks of cash flow assistance through 100% federally guaranteed loans. Another $310 billion was allotted at the end of April. At the beginning of the process, the guidance was to use at least 75% on payroll, and the other 25% could be used for mortgage interest, rent, utilities, but that was about all the guidance that was out there. Since then, most small business owners have been trying to figure out what they'll do to have to prove they used the money as intended so they don't have to pay it back. The Small Business Association has been releasing more guidance as we're moving through this. On April 23rd, they clarified that all borrowers must make a good faith certification the loan was necessary. And then yesterday on May 13th, they announced those who borrowed less than $2 million have a different requirement than those who borrowed more than $2 million, where the good faith certification comes in. So can you guys explain what the good faith certification is, how it applies to those who are loaned less than $2 million, more than $2 million, and then anything else that our members need to know about the PPP loan and getting it forgiven?
Sure, Brianna. Where this all started, it was in the news about 3 weeks ago. It was reported that several public companies were receiving PPP loans and other noteworthy companies. I think the biggest example that was used was the Los Angeles Lakers organization also received a PPP loan. This angered the Treasury Department and the SBA. And so they issued what was called FAQ 31, frequently asked question number 31. And this caused a lot of angst and a lot of confusion for borrowers who had received a PPP loan. Under the original CARES Act, the act specifically suspended the requirement that a borrower not have other lines of credit or access to capital, and that was suspended in the CARES Act. And what FAQ 31 effectively did was it contradicted what was in the act and said that borrowers have to make, and the certification that a borrower had to make was that the current economic uncertainty made the loan request necessary to support their ongoing operations. But the SBA and FAQ 31 stated that this certification is made in good faith, taking into account the borrower's current business activity and their ability to access other sources of liquidity sufficient to support their ongoing operations in a manner that is not significantly detrimental to the business. No one knows what that means. It basically says, you shouldn't apply for this loan if you don't need it. And it was extremely vague. And, we received numerous calls from clients over the last couple of weeks asking, what does this mean? And we honestly told them, we don't know. There was no guidance, and they gave borrowers until May 7th the deadline to return their loans without any type of penalty. And the penalty would be a significant monetary fine plus jail time. So obviously, once they added the jail time, that made people very nervous because there's no guidance and there was really no explanation for the vagueness as to what this meant. So they got a lot of pushback, and then last week they said, well, we're going to extend the deadline to return these loans to May 14th, and we promise we'll provide more guidance on this issue before May 14th. So we continue to receive calls this week. About 10:30 yesterday morning on May 13th, we finally received the guidance from the SBA, which I believe is, Mahek, what was the FAQ number?
46.
46. And essentially what it said was that there is a safe harbor if your loan was less than $2 million. So effectively, they will deem that you made this loan in good, or you made your application in good faith. Sorry about that. I need to turn off my phone. That you'll have a safe harbor that you've made the loan in good faith. And so effectively, if you're under $2 million, you're going to be fine. You're not going to be subject to any type of test as to whether or not you needed the loan. To the extent your loan is over $2 million, you are subject to an automatic audit by the SBA. So they will come and they will review the loan, and then they will determine whether or not you actually needed the loan. But if they determine that the loan was not necessary, rather than monetary fines and jail time, you'll simply be required to repay the loan.
If you're required to repay the loan because they've said, no, you didn't need it, is there interest on it? Because I'm assuming this is going to take a long time for them to be able to go out and start auditing all of these loans that they did.
Mahek, go ahead and answer that.
So as of now, they've said the outstanding balance. Some have interpreted this to mean to include the interest. So it'll be the loan balance plus the 1% interest at a 2-year term. As long as you pay that back, the SBA has said that they will not, pursue any administrative action, but they haven't given a timeline specifically on when you need to pay that loan back. So there should be further guidance about that as well.
So an accountant friend of mine explained how this works. It's like kind of like building an airplane mid-flight. And so with the scope of this act and the loans and everything else, they're doing this kind of piecemeal, and they're kind of making it up as they go along. And so that, we're hoping that this is the end of the good faith certification, but we can't make any promises. We don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, they are making this up as they go along, and so there may be more FAQs that change other parts of the act. It's been, I think, very frustrating for everyone who's been involved in the process, especially if you've applied for a loan. I feel sorry for some of these people who got nervous and returned their loan and probably didn't need to return the loan. And so now that raises the question as to whether or not they can even, make an application for a new loan. And so I assume we'll get more guidance on that as well. So it's been very frustrating for everyone. But that's what happens when you try to rush something this large out in an incredibly short period of time.
So right now, if you receive the loan, and especially if you're under 2 million, and you know that you needed that in order to make payroll and to keep your business open, you are most likely going to be okay. If it's over 2 million, you are going to need to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row, although we don't know what ducks you need to have in a row yet, in order to not have to pay that back. If you have any doubt that maybe you shouldn't have gotten a loan or you don't want to deal with it, if you return it by today, then you just pay the money back and you're done with it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It would be my opinion that you would hold on to the loan. I think there's still a lot of vagueness with respect to that certification. What we are telling clients is, you need to keep very detailed records for the loan forgiveness as to how it should be or how it gets forgiven. And so you need to be clear as to how the loan proceeds were used. Some people are suggesting that you open a separate bank account. I know that's difficult for certain clients who have payroll through a third-party service. Setting up a new bank account would be very time consuming, and then having to change your payroll to that bank account. I can speak for our firm. We didn't do that simply because we didn't have the time or the resources, especially with people working from home, to try to set up a whole new bank account and run payroll through a new bank account for a limited period of time. So what we suggest is that you just keep very accurate records of how that money is used. Again, I don't think it's going to be that difficult. It can only be used for very limited items. It could be used for payroll, rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. So as long as you can show that you spent that money on those things, you should be fine.
That's great. That's much easier to understand having it being verbally explained than trying to read through it. Is there anything else that you guys are hearing about the PPP or any of your clients, or anything else that you want to add that might help people?
We're hearing a lot of things, but I don't think it'd be fit for this program. I think you would have to edit out some of the things we're hearing. So, but yeah, no, I think that it's an ongoing process. We're hoping this last issue with the FAQ 31 and the resolution that came out yesterday was really the hottest topic related to these PPP loans, and it had a real chilling effect. The first round of PPP was used up very, very quickly. I think it was in a matter of days that all the loan funds have been allocated. There's still, I think, at least 40 or 50% of the second round that has not been allocated yet. And from everything that I've heard, it was a result of that FAQ 31. People were very nervous about applying for something because of the vagueness and the possibility of jail time, which was a little sad, because that's not what the intent of this act is for. The intent of this act is to keep people on payroll and allow people to pay their rent. What I explain to clients is, look, you didn't cause this. This was not your fault. This was the government shutting everything down, and so you should be able to participate in these loan programs because it was not something that was caused by business. It was caused by the government shutting everything down, and so you should be able to participate in these loans without fear of going to jail.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. That helps a lot. And if the Small Business Association puts some more stuff out that confuses people, I may have to check back in with you guys here in a week or so, or whenever they throw that out there. I do want to, and I didn't tell you guys about this, so I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit, but I love to end these with something we call Tell Me Something Good. And it can be professional, it can be personal, it can be anything at all. But just in these times when we seem to be focusing a lot on all the bad, we just tell me something good. Patrick, do you want to start? Or?
I'll let Mahek. I've got to think of something good. I just hear bad all day long. So I'll let Mahek start us off.
Well, I know that a lot of graduations have been canceled recently. So this whole process has allowed me to sort of hang out with my family a little bit more. And so we are putting on a sort of drive-by graduation for family members, and I'm really excited about that. So out of all this, I think the best thing has been that, working from home has allowed us to sort of have some family time that we might not have had before. But it also means that no more vacations for the rest of the year.
We are starting to see an uptick in business. We are starting to see people get active again. This will eventually end. I don't know what our new normal will look like, but I have been encouraged this week as far as what I'm hearing from clients. It's not the doom and gloom that I've heard for 2 months. It's actually people looking forward to getting deals done, and so that is nice to hear for a change.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you again both for your time today. Really appreciate it. And like I said, if this stuff keeps going, I may have to check in with you and get another update. So,
and you can always we have a newsletter that we put out, and we've been putting it out a lot lately. Every time there's a significant issue with the PPP, we put it in our newsletter and send it out.
Yep, I get that, and that's where I was like, "Ooh, I don't quite understand what they're saying." So let me have that.
That's Mahek's fault then.
No, that's me. It's all me. Again, thank you both for being on today. I appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.